This video is looking at trig or trigonometry in the standard grade general course. Trigonometry allows us to work out certain things in right angle triangles given certain scenarios. If we know two sides, it allows us to work out an angle. If we know an angle on a side, it allows us to work out one of the two remaining sides. First thing in trig then is all about labelling up the sides. Similar to Pythagoras then, the longest side in the triangle is the hypotenuse. So if we label that up, HYP, hypotenuse. The other two sides in the triangle can change position depending on the question. And they're always relative to the angle. So the opposite side is the one diagonally opposite the x. So in this case, the one going vertically, our height. So that's our opposite side, and the adjacent is just the one that's left over. So we've labelled up a triangle. Hypotenuse, the longest side, always diagonally opposite the right angle. Opposite is the one opposite our x, and adjacent is the one left over. And that allows us to work out any of the question using the three trigonometric ratios, sine, cosine, and tan. So we take an example then. In this example, we have an angle and that we're interested in working out, and two sides that we already know. So if we label it up, the hypotenuse is this side we have nothing on. The opposite is the side marked 5, and the adjacent, in this case the last one, is the 9. Okay, so we write out SOHCAHTOA, because that helps us remember the formula, that sine is opposite over hypotenuse, that cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and that tan is opposite over adjacent. Tick off the sides you have, in this case the opposites and the adjacents, and that will tell us that this question is a tan question. So tan of our angle x is the opposite side 5 over the adjacent side 9. And if we punch that in a calculator, that will give us 0.556. We always go to a minimum of 3 decimal places. Okay, if tan of x is 0.556, then x itself will just be the inverse of tan. And you can find this on your calculator with either shift and then hit tan, or it might be inverse and then hit tan, depending on your calculator. So if you punch that in, what you'll find is the answer to 1 decimal place is 21.9 degrees. So in the triangle with base 9 and height 5, the angle of elevation, the angle x in our diagram, is 21.9 degrees. Okay, on to another example then. Same idea again, still we have two sides and it's the angle we don't know. So we label up, diagonal opposite the right angle is here, so hypotenuse is our 15. The opposite is down here at our 7, and adjacent again, the one that's left over, and this time's the one that's unmarked. So SOHCAHTOA again. Tick off the sides you know, so you know the hypotenuse, you know the opposites. So this one's a sine question. So sine of our angle x is the opposite side 7 over hypotenuse 15. Again, plug that into the calculator, you'll get an answer of 0.467. And if that's what sine is, then x itself is just the inverse sine, sine to minus 1, of 0.467. And again, to 1 decimal place, that will give us 27.8 degrees. So again, we've labelled up our diagram. We've chosen the ratio based on which one receives the two ticks, which one do we have enough information for. So sine is then the 7 over 15. Put in the calculator and round to 3 decimal places, 0.46. And then remember, if that's what sine of x is the inverse of sine, or shift sine of that number, giving you 27.8 degrees. Right, okay, looking at an example now then, where we have the angle, but it's the side we're looking for this time. The process is exactly the same. We label up the sides, there's our hypotenuse, this is our opposite, there's our adjacent down here, and it's our adjacent we're very interested in this time. Okay, so SOHCAHTOA, tick off the ones we have, in this case the hypotenuse. The one we're interested in this case is the adjacent because we don't have enough sides. So that's a cosine question. So cosine of our angle, 25, is our adjacent side, x, over our hypotenuse 10. Okay, having a look at this, reading it back to front, it says x divided by 10 is cos of 25. If that's the case, then x must just equal 10 multiplied by the cos of 25. and that gives us, if we plug in a calculator, 9.1, and meters were our units. Okay, having a look at this question, it gave us that cos of an angle was our unknown over, and then we knew the number on the bottom. That is always the case at general. If you ever get the unknown on the bottom of the question, then you must have done something wrong. Okay, just going quickly to summarise then. To do trig questions, what to do is quickly sketch the diagram, unless you already have it there. Label it up, so hypotenuse first, the longest side, opposite's the one across from your angle, and adjacent to the last one. SOHCAHTOA will help us remember the formulas, that sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine adjacent over hypotenuse, and tan opposite over adjacent. Tick the ones you have. If you haven't chosen after that, tick the ones you're interested in. And remember, you only use the shift button if you're working out an angle.